Hey, brand builder, Rory Vaden here. Thank you so much for taking the time to check out this interview. As always, it's our honor to provide it to you for free. And wanted to let you know there's no big sales pitch or anything coming at the end. However, if you are someone who is looking to build and monetize your personal brand, we would love to talk to you and get to know you a little bit and hear about some of your dreams and visions and share with you a little bit about what we're up to see if we might be a fit. So if you're interested in a free strategy call with someone from our team, we would love to hear from you. You can do that at brandbuildersgroup.com/podcall, brandbuildersgroup.com/podcall. We hope to talk to you soon.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode on the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is AJ Vaden here. I am one of your co-hosts, as well as the CEO and one of the co-founders of Brand Builders Group, along with my partner in crime, Rory Vaden, who is not here with me today. This is my solo episode with my good friend, Cary Jack, who I'm so excited to have on the show. And I know Cary personally, I got to be on his podcast a few months ago, which was probably one of the funnest podcasts that I've ever been on. And so total shout out to the Happy Hustle podcast. You should definitely go check it out. It was so fun. And I love all the things that you do with that. But before we get started and I turn it over to Cary and help you guys learn a little bit about Cary, I do have a professional bio that I will read because undoubtedly I will forget some of these really awesome accolades that I think are also fascinating about Cary. So, all right, I'm going to give you kind of like what to me sticks out that you should really know if you're listening to this, why you should stick around and why this is a really important episode for you. So Cary Jack is a lifestyle entrepreneur. He's an author. He's a podcast host. He's also a professional actor and model. He's a biohacker, eco warrior, martial artist, humanitarian. I mean, it's like, what aren't you doing? So many things going up. But when I say like he is doing really extraordinary things, he's also worked with extraordinary brands. I mean, I'm talking about like he's represented international brands like Burberry, Hermes, Topman, Corona, Marriott, Royal Caribbean, Cadillac, Vogue, Home Depot, like the list goes on and on and on. So with all of that said, we literally could talk about just interesting things for the next 40 minutes. But in an effort to keep this call very focused, we're going to talk about some really unique things that I think are going to help our listeners. So Cary, welcome. Welcome to the show.
AJ, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. And yeah, we definitely could go down many rabbit holes, but I'm all about adding value to the audience. And I have, a really great insight to building and growing and monetizing your personal brand. And I really am excited to share some of the wisdom that I've acquired and the mistakes that I've learned from along the journey.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a great episode. One, because I know your background and I know your story. And I've seen so much of it firsthand over the last few years, but also just because you're so humble and you're just such a joyful human being. I'm so excited for this. So, all right. So I know a ton about you. Our listeners do not. So help everyone kind of get to know, like, how did you get to where you are? And then tell us a little bit about where are you, right? Like, what are you doing and how'd you get there?
Oh, yeah. So I grew up half in Sarasota, Florida, surfing the beaches and, enjoying that Florida lifestyle, and then half in the mountains of Red Lodge, Montana, camping, fishing, hunting, hiking. And, that's where I first realized the importance of balance, both balance with my environment, but also just balance, professionally and personally. My childhood wasn't the easiest. Everyone has a story, but, I actually was dropped on my head as a child. I don't even know if you know that, AJ, but I had a very severe stutter. I couldn't speak. I was very angry, a very angry kid because I couldn't articulate myself. And my mom actually cured me with chiropractic, and she would adjust my craniosacral bones. And I can speak okay now. And but due to that, I was very angry. I went to many years of anger management, which is odd because I run a company called The Happy Hustle now.
And you're so joyful. I literally said that.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't always. And then I got into some trouble when I was young. There was a gut-wrenching divorce mixed in, and mental and physical and emotional abuse. And I actually ended up moving 24 times before the age of 18. So I was on the move a lot, got into some crime. I'll leave a lot of that out, but I ended up in jail.
That's for a happy hour conversation.
Yeah, that's for drinks and one-on-one where I can't incriminate myself. But I learned the hard way, basically. And I've always been a hustler, I'll say, but I wasn't always a happy hustler. I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. Fast forward, I changed my ways. I operate now with 100% integrity. And I really, I just completely did a 180 because I saw that path and where I was headed, and I just didn't want to go that direction. And I actually launched a company in New York City with my brother, business partner, and best friend, Grant. And we were grinding, AJ. I mean, we were working our tails off, just 100+ hour weeks, getting less than 5 hours of sleep. And, all for what? For profit, success, ego, title. And I feel like a lot of people out there can resonate with, grinding, but not necessarily for the right reasons, and I was no different. We had this big tech company that we were soliciting these 7-figure VC funding deals. And we actually ended up getting the 7-figure VC funding deals. We inked partnerships with Microsoft and IBM, and we had everything for this grandiose tech company that could have had a 5-year exit and multiple millions of dollars to come with. And I just realized right when we were sitting down to sign the contract that I couldn't take the money. My brother and I were just so unhappy. We were so burnt out. And I just feel now there's an epidemic going on. Sure, there's a pandemic, but there's an epidemic, and it's this entrepreneurial burnout. Yeah. And I just made it my mission to solve that problem for myself. And I had to make a choice. I said no to the money. My brother and I folded the company in 18 months of hard work. Scrapped, completely. I then moved to Bangkok, Thailand for 10 months. And I just figured out a better way to work and live over there, a way to truly be happy within the hustle. And that's where the Happy Hustle was born. And that's kind of where I'm at now is, running this company that helps entrepreneurs mainly, but really anyone who's struggling with imbalance. Imbalance is my one word. If you know BBG, your one word problem. Imbalance is the one word problem that I solve for people. And I do that in a multitude of ways, but that's really kind of the journey in a nutshell.
Wow. You know what I love so much about almost every single person who comes on this show, and really anyone who has really ingrained themselves in the BBG community, is they all have done it over this mission focused of, I wanted to make a difference for myself, for someone else. It's like money has always been the byproduct of it, not at the forefront. And I love that. It's like, I turned down the money because I wasn't happy and I had to figure out a better way to live. And so I'm so curious, what happened in Thailand? What did you discover in Thailand?
Well, a lot of things happened in Thailand. I traveled around a bunch, went to all sorts of really cool places, from Vietnam to Singapore to Bali and everywhere in between. But what really happened was I made my first dollars online, and I was I rented this amazing penthouse apartment for $400 US, and I was working from a laptop, and I just realized that you don't have to sell your soul to make a living. You could actually make money and a difference, if you get clear on who you want to help. And so it kind of just came full circle when I was over there. Okay, I really want to enjoy my everyday, journey. And I think what happens with a lot of people, especially type A driven individuals, is, lack thereof a better cliche, they get to the top of the mountain and they realize they're the only one there, and they isolated everyone, and then they got to go all the way back down and then climb a different mountain. And that's kind of how it happened to me. And when I was over there, I realized I can enjoy every single day. I can enjoy the journey, not just the destination, as a happy hustle life that I actually love.
I love that. And I've been there too. I feel like I spent 10 years basically putting myself in this tiny little corner where I missed every wedding, every birthday party, every baby shower, all in the sake of revenue and profit, ambition. And I've been there. I know that feeling. And so, okay. So you kind of figured out my life cannot be about money. There's got to be this balance here. I have to figure this out. You go to Thailand, you travel around, you start making money online, right?
Yep.
So walk us through that for everyone's listening, because we have a ton of people who listen that they are in the grind and they've got a full-time, corporate job, and maybe they plan on leaving, maybe they don't. But how did it all start? Like, what did you start doing online? How did you generate that first dollar? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, well, for me, I kind of evolved my brand and my messaging, which I think a lot of people out there will end up doing as well. What you start as will not be what you finish as, or even in the middle where you end up. It's honestly getting clear on like who you want to help first and foremost, and what problem you actually want to help them solve. Just like, the brand builders group, like core 3 questions is, what's the one word problem that you want to solve for people? Who do you want to solve it for exactly? Right? Customer demographics and psychographics. And then what's your uniqueness? And like, although I didn't do it in that specific, with that specific terminology, although I am a BBG client as well as a BBG evangelist, I'm going back to Thailand, I wasn't in that mindset. I just said, you know what, I can help these people just through a webinar. I just sold a webinar, and I just started, helping with like accountability and mindset. And it was just really like basic stuff, but it was a very low price point, but it gave me social proof that, wow, I can do this.
I can do this. So for anyone out there who's going, would anyone actually want what I have to say? Would anyone sign up? Would anyone pay for this? Like, what would you tell for that person who just is hesitant to take that first step of saying, I'm going to do a webinar. I'm going to do it for free. I'm going to charge for it. I'm just going to start. Like, what would you say to them?
I would say 100%, don't let the fear hold you back. We all have that little voice inside our head. We all have the self-limiting beliefs and the compare and despair. Who am I to share this message? X so-and-so is so much more qualified. And as soon as you heed Rory's advice, which I love, when the mission to serve is clear, there is no fear. And so I think if you can just get out of your own head and start to focus on service and realize that you have a message, you have a gift, and the world needs it, then you can push past that fear and really just start. And you nailed it, AJ. That's what it is. It's starting. Like, you have to take action and just start.
That's so good. I've never actually heard it said. I've never heard anyone say it that way, compare and despair, because that's what happens when you compare. You immediately like self-isolate and go, well, I can't do this. This person's already doing this. It's like, the more that you compare, it's like that fear just like takes over and tells you, no, you can't.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
That's so good. I love that. All right. So that is amazing. So clearly you don't live in Thailand anymore. You're back in the States. You're in good old Montana. So tell us a little bit about like, what are you doing right now? Because you just recently had a major accomplishment with your first book. All right. I already talked about your podcast. So how did you go from, I think I'm going to do this one thing online, to now you're a published author, you're a speaker, you're got this amazing podcast? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, well, I do have to give credit to BBG. I went to Finding Your Brand DNA, and that was the catalyst. Like, it's always easier to reverse engineer, the process looking backwards and say, oh, that's what the step was. And then the next step. Yeah. But truly, when I look at my journey, I was throwing spaghetti on the walls for like 3 years. I was like, oh, I can help this person and I can help this person. Oh, you need health and fitness coaching. Oh, you need business or entrepreneur, and I wasn't clear. And when you try to be everything to everyone, you actually become nothing to no one. And so you have to get clear. And when I went to the Finding Your Brand DNA event in Nashville, you and Rory, this was like OG BBG, just when it started.
It was like very in the early
days. It was. And that, that event really helped me crystallize my message. And it just helped me clarify the vision. And I've always been big into goal setting. However, when you actually go through and get someone like AJ or Rory or the BBG personal brand strategist to help give you perspective, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And that is really what happened. It gave me perspective. It helped me identify who's my perfect target avatar, where do they hang out? How do I reach them? What problem am I actually going to solve for them? And how am I actually going to solve it for them? So fast forward, I've run high-level masterminds for my perfect avatar of, imbalanced entrepreneurs. I've done, all sorts of online courses. I've done books and speaking and events. Right now, what I'm focused on is my podcast, which, that's been a great tool to build the know, like, and trust with my tribe. Yeah. However, it's also a great tool to network. And I know you and Rory talk about the power of networking through a podcast. I essentially use my podcast to add as much value as possible. And then I have my free plus shipping book funnel, which my book acts as a lead magnet, and then it transitions into my online course. And I have this Blissful Bouncer whiteboard fridge magnet that then parlays into a reoccurring membership model. And then I have a high-level Montana Mastermind Epic Camping adventure where I actually take high-level entrepreneurs into the backcountry Montana wilderness for 5 days. And we camp out, we hike in about 10 miles, and we bring in a primitive survival expert, a fly fishing expert. We have a backcountry chef, and we have a business mastermind in the wilderness, completely disconnected.
I'm going to pause you right here because I think this is really significant to anyone who is out there trying to build their personal brand, trying to monetize it. I'm just realizing it's like you really have one set of curriculum. But with that, you have a podcast, you have a course, you have a book, you have a lead magnet, you have speaking, you have this membership program, you have this high-level mastermind, but it's all centered around one set of curriculum. And I think that's a really significant thing of going, you don't have to have tons and tons of content. You need one set of life-changing content that actually makes a difference. And then you just create it in a variety of mediums to meet people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So
you nailed it.
How did you determine which formats were best for you and your audience? Because I think that's a really important thing as people are trying to figure out, with so many things that I could do, how do I know what I should do?
Yeah. Well, again, just echoing your point, you really want to get crystal clear on your framework, your content, how you solve the problem. You should know who you solve the problem for, but how you solve the problem is going to determine where you are going to solve the problem in terms of medium, right? Someone potentially who listens to my podcast maybe isn't ready to invest in the Montana Mastermind Epic Camping adventure. So I need to meet them where they're at with free content, a free lead magnet, all sorts of valuable things that build that know, like, and trust. Then when they're ready, I can nurture them to potentially joining my online course. That's a scalable offer that can really add a ton of value, but further nurture that relationship. Then when they're ready for more, then they could, ascend themselves or through my marketing to an online membership model. And I just think anyone out there listening who's struggling, in terms of where to start, you have to think of who is your perfect avatar. Like, if you're working with busy entrepreneurs who are, maybe 40 to 50 years of age, well, they're probably not going to be on TikTok. Okay. They're probably going to be on LinkedIn, right? Maybe they'll be on TikTok. I feel like, who knows these days?
Who knows?
But
right now?
I don't know. My team handles all that. I just can't do the dancing. I love dancing, but that's with my fiance and at the dance hall. Anyway, the point is you got to think about, like, they're not going to think of where your avatar is and then serve them there where they're already at. Like, again, like BBG does these high-level strategy days. Some people aren't going to sit in front of a course. They're just not going to watch a video on their laptop on a Saturday. They want one-on-one hand holding, so you have to think about where your perfect avatar is, and then where is going to be best to connect with them, to be relatable for them, to share your story and your process and your message so that you can make a positive impact in their life.
Oh man, I'll tell you what I took away from that I think is so significant is stop looking around at what everyone else is doing and look directly at the people you need to serve, that you were meant to serve, and go, what do they need? How can they consume this? and stop trying to do the next trendy thing just because someone else is doing it. They may not have your audience. So focus on your audience, focus on the person that you're trying to serve and build it for them.
Yep. Amen to that.
Good. I love that. That's so good. Now, speaking of this curriculum, one of the things that I do want to talk about, because we mentioned this earlier, is you don't need 5 different sets of curriculum or all this content and 5 different keynotes. Like, that's not necessary to build an empire-worthy business. You need one life-changing set of content. So let's talk about content for a minute, because yours is really good. And it's really awesome. And I just want 2 things out of this kind of like last beat of our conversation. And I know we're almost out of time. So I think the first thing is, how did you come up with this content? Like, how did you actually go, this is a book, right? This needs to be in a book and in a course, and here's what I'm going to do. And then 2, what is it? Like, give us some of the fruits of all of your labor.
Yes. Well, again, it started for me, at least, by scratching my own itch. I was out of balance. I needed to get back to flow in alignment, and so I just broke my life down into these 10 different areas. I now call them 10 alignments. And this was basically, me just determining how I can get back to this state of blissful balance. And for me, I broke it down into an acronym. It didn't start as an acronym. Obviously, it evolves.
We love an acronym, Cary.
I know you love an acronym. Yep. And that's really, one of the things that I realized is acronyms and frameworks for everyone listening are so imperative, because people have a lot going on. And if they can't remember your content, well, chances are it's not going to positively impact their life. So you have to think through this. And you want to make it so easy to consume and so easy to implement, but not necessarily, repetitive. You don't want to be a copycat. So for me, my framework's not rocket science. I'll be the first one to tell you it's not rocket science. It's just I broke my life down to these 10 different areas. It's called the soul mapping, framework. It's essentially your soul's map to the blissfully balanced promised land. And, AJ, I'll run through this real quick for the audience, but I want everyone out there to actually quantify where they're at in each of these 10 different areas, these 10 different alignments. And AJ, if you want to get put on the spot, if you're feeling brave, I'll ask you where you're at in these. But basically, I want you to think about 5 is like an A, you're crushing it. You're really happy hustling in this alignment. 1 is like an F, you're failing. And as you know, what you measure, you can manage. So it's really important to measure yourself in each of these 10 alignments. And I do it every Sunday. I take my own medicine every Sunday, and I look at where I am lacking in the week, prior, and where I need to prioritize change in the week ahead. And so it's this constant ebb and flow of adjustments. Now, S stands for selfless service. Are you living for yourself and your own personal gain, or are you giving back to others, your expertise, your time, your money? Think right now where you're at just give yourself in the last 7 days, where you're at in selfless service. 5 is an A, 1 is an F. Write it down. Okay. And everyone out there listening, be an active participant here. I get the most out of podcasts like this when I take action. I actually, implement, but also do the work. O stands for optimize health. Are you, optimized mentally, physically, and emotionally, or not so much? Are you, shoving garbage down your pie hole and, feeling sluggish and just not nearly optimized? And be honest with yourself. 1 to 5, 5's an A, 1's an F. You unplug digitally. Are you constantly plugged in, connected to your devices, like looking at social media, watching Netflix and Amazon Prime and all these other things that we're inundated with? Or are you being diligent and having barriers and using your tech, not letting it use you? L, loving relationships. Are you, having love in your life? I mean, what's it all for if you don't have love in your life, right, AJ? I mean, you want to make sure that you're connected with your personal relationships, your family, your friends, but also your lover, making sure that relationship doesn't, get sacrificed in the process of your ascension, right? So This is the soul part. Okay. And AJ, do you want to run through yours for the soul part real quick?
Yeah, I have no shame in this. So, and the S, I'm a 4. I feel like I'm pretty good with that. On the O, I'm a 4. I feel pretty good about that.
Yep.
On the U, I'm a 1. I fail. It's a major F. Terrible. I need help. And on the L, I'll give us a 5. I got lots of love. I feel lots of love. It's all around. So that I feel really good about.
Yep, exactly. And here's the thing, guys, just give yourself grace. Right now, this is just your baseline, and you have to be honest with yourself, but you also want to give yourself grace. Now we get to the mapping part. M stands for mindful spirituality. Are you connected to a higher power? Are you, meditating and praying and practicing breath work? Like, are you believing in something bigger than yourself? Right? That's an M. Rank 5 is an A, 1 is an F. A, abundance financially. Are you living paycheck to paycheck, or are you doing what you want, when you want, with who you want? Are you abundant? And, oftentimes many people think this is the most important alignment, but it's not. Rank where you're at. It is important, but it's not the most important. They're all equally important. The first P, personal development. Are you growing every day? Learning and reading and, listening to podcasts like this and watching inspiring and educational shows, or not so much, decide where you're at in personal development. The second P, which I find a lot of driven, entrepreneurs and type A high performers lack, is this one: passion, hobbies. Are you doing fun things for yourself? Are you like getting out there and actually enjoying things that you used to really enjoy? Maybe it's a martial art or fly fishing or horseback gliding like me, or maybe it's painting or singing or whatever it is for you. Rank where you're at in passionate hobbies. And then you got I, impactful work. Are you getting up every day and really excited about what you're doing, infusing your passion, which is, that inward calling on your heartstrings, with your purpose, which is that outward serving mission to make a positive impact, right? Like, what's it all for if you don't make a positive impact, So rank where you're at. Maybe you're not, feeling very fulfilled by your work, and that's okay. But just, recognizing it. Awareness is the first step to change. Rank where you're at, 1 to 5 in that alignment. And then N, nature connection. Are you actually connected to nature? Are you getting outside and, tapping into Pachamama, our beautiful planet? And oh, by the way, are you protecting it? This is where being a conscious consumer actually plays. Like, are you voting with your dollar and supporting B corporations? And I have a whole nother company with my brother and business partner and best friend, called Eco Breakthroughs. And we're fighting the plastic pollution epidemic. And we're up to some very big things in this realm. And I'm really excited about this, but it's so important now more than ever that we take care of our planet. So this all falls in nature connection. So AJ, you should have your mapping scores. Let's hear it.
These are good. I love this. I love this kind of stuff too, because I think it's so important to have that gut check.
Yeah.
And again, like back to what you said, and what I love about this, and then I promise I'll tell you my scores, is that this came from knowing where you were out of alignment. It's like, if you know you are, there's a likelihood someone else is too. So it's solve the problem that you have, knowing that it's simultaneously going to solve problems for other people. And I love that. I think this is so clever. On the M, mindfulness, I gave it spirituality, connection to God. Like, I gave that a 5. Like, that's probably like the strongest for me. That and love. I feel good about like really good. A, I gave it a 4, right? So pretty good. The first P, I gave it a 4. Feel pretty good about that. The second one, I said, at first I said this was like the hobbies, right? Passions.
Yes.
I said a 1, but then I remembered that my goal for this year is have more fun. And then I was like, actually, I've been doing some new things. It's like went surfing.
Oh yeah.
Hiking. We're in a little bike gang that my 5-year-old has named Whirlwinds. We're the Whirlwinds. We go biking. So I feel maybe I gave myself a 2. And then on the I, a 4. And then on the N, a 2.
Yes. Well, I will say you're crushing it in many regards, but those ones, the unplug digitally, the nature connection and the passionate hobbies, these are all very important areas of your life if you want to achieve that blissful balance. And, right now, if you tally your scores up, everyone listening, and you're above a 37, congratulations, you're happy hustling. If you're a 36 or below, well, you got some work to do. And so this is, again, a tool, a system, an assessment, will you, that I do every single week. And the happy hustlers in my community do every single week, because balance isn't this finite destination.
You said balance. 37 is a happy hustler?
Yep.
Oh, I fell short. I'm a 34. I got work to do.
Yep, you do.
I tell you what, for everyone listening to this too, like, who doesn't like to do stuff like this? It's like, am I happy hustling? I don't know. I need to take this quiz. So incorporating things like this into your content, make it so engaging.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's so important that you do it regular, because I'm going to give ultimately one of the biggest happy hustling principles that I could ever bestow upon the BBG community and anyone listening. And that is, you must give each area of your life equal importance, but focus on one at a time.
That's
right.
Good.
So you must give each area of your life equal importance, but focus on one at a time. I'm on this podcast with AJ. I'm all here 110%. When I go on my date night with my lover later, I'm going to be 100% there. When I go to my martial arts karate class, I'm 100% there. You know, it's like people, I feel like where the disconnect is when they're at work, they're thinking about their family. And when they're with their family, they're thinking about work. And so we're not doing anything to our 100% capability or effectiveness. So it's really important that you give equal importance to each of these 10 different alignments, but you must focus on one at a time.
Okay. So I have a question for you about that, because I think that really plagues most human beings is, you know, we're at work, but we're thinking about this problem at home, or we're at home and we're consumed with checking our emails. And so I'm curious, right? Just in your opinion, why are we such a distracted community right now? And it's like, why can't we put one thing down to focus on the thing right in front of us? And then two, any tips on how to do that better?
Why? One, I would say, is because our human brains are not necessarily built to encounter thousands of notifications in one day or thousands of pieces of information. We were cavemen and women, for millennia. And here we now have little smartphones that have more capabilities than, like hundreds of thousands of years prior in our pocket. And so we're just inundated constantly by these dopamine dumps, and we become addicted because the people who are designing them are, that's their sole job, is to help make sure that their product and services are addicting for you. So we're outgunned as human beings. And so you have to create barriers. To answer, to parlay into the second part of this question, you have to create barriers. You have to have discipline. I have rules in my life that I adhere to the majority of the time. 60 minutes in the morning, 60 minutes before bed, no devices, right? Just Sundays, 24-hour digital detox for the most part. I just did a 7-day dopamine detox where no social media, no, YouTube or like movies or stream shows or any of that stuff. And I made more money and was more effective than I have been in, I don't even know how long, and it's like, we're so distracted. So the answer is create barriers, have discipline to adhere to them, and have consequences if you don't.
Those are good. Those are really good. Any specific examples, just one tip of like, what's one barrier that you've set in your life that you feel like has really made a significant difference?
One barrier would be, I would say, time blocking. Just in terms of work, we're all trying to build, grow, and monetize our personal brand and really spread our message and make a positive impact. Specifically in terms of work, I have a be focused timer on my computer, and I'll airplane mode my phone, and I'll do a 30-minute block, and then I'll do a 5-minute break, and then I jump on my rebounder as a break, which I think is really important to shake out the lymphatic drainage system. Going back to my biohacking days, I used to run a biohacking company for the top, 1% highest performers. And I took a lot of those little biohacks, and that one barrier, that one time block, I can be ultra productive. And I typically work 20 hours per week. Like that's like my sweet spot. And, I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, so I'm not looking to like run this massive conglomerate, but I will tell you, the reason I can work so little and still be where I'm at is because I time block and I'm disciplined in those time blocks.
So, all right, last question. I'm just genuinely curious. When you're doing all the other things, the other 20 hours of your week. How are, for all of us aspiring to one day have a 20-hour work week and still be where we are, how are you spending the rest of your time?
Well, as I mentioned to you pre-chat, I was just at the hot springs here and I was soaking in thermal, natural hot water. And then I went and I do a hot and cold thermogenesis. So there's a cold pool and a hot pool, and I get a workout in. And then I have, the ski mountain here in Montana where I go snowboarding regularly. And, I'm training to get my black belt in Ishinryu karate with my fiance, and I go fly fishing and horseback riding, and I stay busy. I volunteer with a bunch of organizations here, and so I find things to do.
But here's what I know: it's like that is not a pipe dream life. That's a created, intentional life.
Exactly.
Anyone can have it if that's actually what you try to create for yourself. I believe truly that most of us are living a default life, that we've just set into whatever has been around us, and we keep moving and going, actually, that's not the life I want. And you're living a super intentional, created life. I love it. You live your content, which is why it's so successful. It just exudes out of you. I love this soul mapping. I'm a 34. By the time we talk again, I'm gonna be a 37, Cary. I'm on
Get it, girl. Get it, girl.
This is so good. All right. My last question. And then we're going to wrap this, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. So I would just want, you've been building your personal brand for several years. You've also built and scaled companies. Like, you've done so many successful things. I want to know, like, what is one lesson that you think has made the most dramatic change or impact in your life that you think all of our listeners should hear?
The Compound Effect. Darren Hardy, great book. I know you guys know him, but that book really resonated with me. Little actions consistently over time. I live by this phrase, persistent consistency. Every single day, getting better than who you were yesterday. Don't look at other people and compare and despair. Look at who you were yesterday. And I know it's cliche again, but I'm gonna hit you with the truth. That persistent consistency every single day has that compound effect. And I want to leave one question with everyone listening. And this is what allowed me to create this lifestyle. And it is, what does success actually look like for you? Because a lot of people chase other, versions of success. Society deems this successful, so we chase it, but truly that's not what success looks like for you. So you end up achieving it, and then you're unhappy and unfulfilled. So you have to answer that question. What does success look like for you?
Oh, so good. And it's true in every area of your life. Small, consistent step taken over an ongoing amount of times. You hear this all the time. It's like, what's the key to content creation? Consistency. What's the key to growing your online following? Consistency. What's the key to staying out of debt? Being consistent, right? It's like, don't spend money. It's like, be consistent with what you're doing. What's the key to staying in love? Be consistent with time with each other. It's consistency, consistency, consistency. We can talk about that every single area of your life. And most specifically for this podcast, how it relates to your personal brand. You have got to be consistent with what you do. It doesn't happen overnight. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Cary Jack,
yes.
So good to have you on this show. Thank you so much. This was awesome. So good. Love it. For everyone else, please follow Cary Jack. We're going to put these links in the show notes, but we want you to go to the Happy Hustle book.com. You can get the free ebook. You can do his free plus shipping. You can check out his membership. You can come camping with him this summer in Montana. Whatever it is, check out his podcast, but the happyhustlebook.com. We'll put that in the show notes. Cary, we love you. So grateful for this. So good.
Let me give one special give to the BBG community, because I'm a part of it, and I love this community, AJ, and I want to do something special. As you know, time is our most precious commodity. I'm very diligent with mine. I want to give anyone who does pick up a copy of the Happy Hustle book, if you read it and you send me a DM on Instagram with your biggest takeaway, I'll have my team send you my Calendly link, and we'll get on the 20-minute Happy Hustle Huddle. And I'm going to help you happy hustle your dream reality, whatever that looks like. There's no ulterior motive except me to just give value to you. So take action if you want to connect with me, and I'd love to serve however I can.
Oh, I love that. That should be another incentive. Go to thehappyhustlebook.com, get it, read it, get that Calendly link, schedule some call with the one and only Cary Jack. Y'all, so good. Catch us next time on the Influential Personal Brand.
Peace and love, y'all.